Bill Merchant, historian and curator here at the D&H Canal Historical Society. Our museum here at 23 Mohonk Road in High Falls will be closed in 2 years, so we've created the virtual museum, short 3 to 7 minute segments that will tour you through this museum while we still can. I hope you enjoy. In today's episode of the virtual tour of the current D&H Canal Museum in High Falls, I'm going to talk about this man, Dubois Weber, and a little bit about that wonderful boat model he's got there. Manville Wakefield, the founding member of our museum, an excellent artist and historian who wrote the book Coal Boats to Tidewater, was fortunate because when he was researching the D&H Canal, men like Dubois and Earl Mack were still alive to tell the tales of what life was like on the canal. And Dubois also was kind of a talented guy because he made this wonderful model of a canal boat of that era. After 1850, these canal boats were 90 foot long, 14 and a half foot wide, and they could carry 130 tons of coal. You'll read sometimes in the secondary sources, some people say 140 tons of coal. I personally have never heard more than 130 in those primary sources. And the secondary sources may have been deceived because there's a wonderful story. There was going to be a contest. Who could carry the most coal? And the idea was you'd get to the Waylock in Eddyville, made by the Fairchild Scale Company. It was an actual scale. It was a lock so big you could pull the boat in, drain out all the water. You had to make sure you had all the water out of the boat first. So you had to use a thing called a bilge pump. Let's see if we can show you a bilge pump there. A mechanical device that was on the side of the boat. Let's see if we can get a good look at here, because Dubois was so good, he actually put a bilge pump right there. So you just lift that thing, and there was a leather washer, if you will, and it would just suck the water on up, because you could not get on the Waylock until you only had an inch of water. They weren't going to pay you coal money for water weight, were they? But getting back to the story of the unscrupulous captain, the idea was you're going to see who had the most coal that run. Well, this guy pulled over out of sight somewhere on the Roundout Creek before the Waylock and added an extra, maybe 10 tons of coal. And so he won. Although, since we know the story, it begs the question, did he really win? But at any rate, I may never know that. And as D&H stories go, not one I have to waste too much time chasing down, huh? Here in this corner of the museum, and just to give you an idea how talented Dubois was, by the way, here's another model that we have. The proportions on this, I naively thought when I first started working here that this was a model of the early boats, the 70-foot by 9-foot, 30-ton burden boats. But in fact, if you think about it, this is way too broad and not skinny and not long and skinny enough. This is just folk art, people. This was made by a Nicholas Bruck, probably somewhere around 1875 to 1880. But this is not anywhere near as accurate as the boat model that Dubois made here. And while we're in this corner of the museum, I might as well talk a little bit about, well, first off, what's a Caribbean mollusk doing here in a museum, huh? This is a conch shell. A conch shell can be used as a horn. And the rules of engagement for the D&H Canal required that every boat captain sound a horn a half mile before each of the 108 locks, so as to let the lock tenders, plural, until 1857, well, between 1853 and 1857, when they went to a unique semi-patented scheme that enabled one man to operate the locks. So the tin horns, very common items, and the canalers would have had one on board, or they might have used a conch shell. Dubois also would tell stories. For instance, here in High Falls, the locks are they're made of fitted cut stone masonry. This is a model. Most of the locks on the D&H Canal were composite locks that were dry-laid stone that didn't fit well and then lined with white oak to make it fit well. Dubois says that in the High Falls area, where we had these precision locks, in the end of the season, you wind up, by the time you got through this 5 or 6 locks in a row, covered in ice and ashes, because the stone, although it was precision cut, was not by any means watertight. We have some pictures in our archive where you can see the water leaking. Thank you so much for joining us in our virtual tour. New episodes will be put up every week. Hope you enjoy.